kicked out my pregnant cheating girlfriend ex-posting from Perodovnikast. I was told posting here as well might help, sorry if it's against the rules. A bit about us. We're both in our 30s and have just moved to a whole new city across the country a few months ago. As I had been offered a much better paying job in an area that has generally lower living costs as well as it being a nice area to raise a child. She is currently 7 months pregnant with what I thought to be my child. I was initially shocked since we always used protection or I pulled out. But after having some time to think about it, I was ecstatic. It was the perfect time in our lives for kids. I just finished the last payments on my flat low-interest mortgages and first-time buyer benefits FTW, as well as being a strong contender for the job I currently have. Anyway, recently she has been very distant and reserved. I just chalked that up to pregnancy hormones, but during breakfast she seemed even more distant and quiet than usual, so I asked her what was up a few times until she yelled that she doesn't always have to answer me and walked away. Right, whatever. I was late for work, so I went on my way. I got a message around lunchtime asking me if I could leave the lab early because there was something very important she wanted to talk about and didn't want to do it after I got home after a long day. So, I finished up my work and okayed it with my boss and went home, picking up some subs for us on the way. To cut a long story short, and beating around the bush short, she told me that while I was working Hell Week at the lab, she met a guy during a night out with some work friends, and one thing led to another and they ended up sleeping together. This carried on for a week or two supposedly because I was always working and not spending enough time with her. I worked 14-hour days during that time and just wanted to come home and sit. She mentioned how he lied about using a condom by saying he was using ultra-thin ones and didn't realize what he did until she felt it. The time of this fits in with when she was up the duff. I can't describe how angry I felt after she told me. I got up and threw her sub into the bin and left the house to go for a drive to a friend so I could calm down. I returned home the next morning and demanded we book an appointment for a prenatal paternity test, which she was initially very much against but eventually gave in and agreed. I booked an appointment that morning for the following week and I stayed with my mate until the day. I took the afternoon off work and drove us there in silence, aside from her crying and apologizing. Got the procedure over with and dropped her back and went back to my mates until results day. Well, we got the results back today and guess what? It turns out I am not the father of that little sprock. I drove us home and demanded she get out and start packing because I wanted her out before I got back from work, picking my stuff up from my friends. She was hysterical and saying how I couldn't just leave her alone and homeless while she was so close to the due date and so far away from home, and that she really loved me and wanted me to raise this bastard child with her because it's the only way it'll have a decent life. She's an arts graduate and was working a minimum wage job before the move. Pregnancy. I never made it into work. I drove into a field, rang my boss to tell him what happened, and he told me to take as much time as I needed and he'd have a PhD student cover my work. I stayed there for hours just laying in the seat and cried at how everything has fallen apart. I had just gotten my life in order. Everything was stable and ready to go for the baby. We even finished designing the baby's room. I switched my phone back on and saw I had several missed calls and voicemails, a few from her, some from her family and a couple from my mate telling me to come to his as soon as I could. I rung my mate up, filled him in and went over to his. And that's what's happened so far. I haven't gone back to house yet. I just can't bring myself to go back there knowing that all the plans I had for it are dead. I have no idea what to do anymore. What should I do, Reddit? I apologize in advance if my rambling wall of text is difficult to read. I just wanted to get it all out and have been typing on my tablet. TL. Dear girlfriend cheated on me and lied about it being my baby, so I threw her sandwich in the bin and kicked her out. Quick update, I'm so sorry for the late reply, but I've been sorting things out with a solicitor and her family. I took the advice and after calming down bought her a one-week coach ticket back home. Trains don't go to Horsville. The morning after this went down, I went to the house with my friend with me and she was still there, which I expected. She immediately waddled over and started hugging me and crying, begging not to end our relationship. I stayed with my initial feelings of wanting her to get the hell out of here. I gave her the piece of paper with the coach ticket and then told her to gather her stuff so I can drop her off at the coach station. After much more crying, she packed her suitcase and I loaded it into the car and drove us. Friend was with us all throughout as a witness because you can never be too careful to the coach stand. After getting her out of the car with even more crying and sitting her down in the waiting room, she calmed down a bit because there were people around, but she asked me what she's meant to do now as a jobless, homeless single mother. My response was, "Fuck you, Jenny. Go to Zach. It's his problem now." Just kidding. I told her that she should try find the father, wished her the best and left. I had a few calls from her family asking me if I was out of my fucking mind and etc., but I've had my phone off since then and I'm just trying to move forward. I might make a proper update on the weekend and turn my phone back on. But for the time being, I'm trying to focus and work to catch up on everything. Thank you all so much for your support. This truly is an amazing community and I didn't expect this to blow up like it has.